Hello, how are you?
Okay.
I was thinking your praise is the,
Welcome.
she needs that earlier today.
Okay, we are beginning. We are starting. It's Wednesday, April 8th. This is Senate Institutions. Thank you all for being here, both the witnesses and those who are taking tabs online. Today we're going to be getting an introduction, one of a few introductions actually, of the Capitol bill. We have from Department of Buildings and General Services, we have the commissioner and the deputy commissioner, and we'll take a break. And then later on, we'll be looking at H559, which is an act relating to the parole board. So we have Wanda Manoli, the commissioner, and thank you very much for being here. And if you can, feel free to let us know what you think we should know at this point.
So thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee. It is wonderful to be back and the sun is shining. We're not looking at snow, so that's a very positive. I am still looking for the daffodils blooming, so if you find any, let me know.
I'm too proud of them.
Go south, right? Go south. So, when last week, I think when we were contacted, one of the things that I was asked is just to give an overview. I know that of the Capitol bill and maybe some general comments. I do know that your ledge council has been in and has walked you through the bill, and I know that Scott's been in and walked you through the finance. I think there are a couple, they're not very large. There are a few items that I'd like to just bring to your attention and make sure that you understand what our position was on it. In addition, Madam Chair, I do know that the Secretary of Administration did send you a communication regarding the administration's concern on different elements of the bill. And I know that we have testimony scheduled this week. And I think there are some specific project items in that list that Joe Aja will get into detail with you, but I can answer any that you have today.
Yeah, I just received that about an hour ago, so
I thought you got it this morning.
Glanced at it. It may have been somewhere this morning, but I didn't see it until lunchtime.
So if I could have a few moments to actually go to the bill H 952 that passed.
We do not have that language.
You don't have-
We do not have it in front of us. We're working on a spreadsheet. We have not yet had the introduction from Ledge Council. We have had the introduction from JFO.
Okay, all right, so
Sorry about that.
no, then I think what we should do at this time, is to go to the spreadsheet. You can ask questions and I'll either respond or we'll take detailed note and we'll make sure that it's in the testimony and your follow-up questions tomorrow. Does that make sense?
That sounds wonderful. And thank you for being able to fit. So let's start with section 2. We saw that there were a fair amount of changes made. And generally the House, as I said before, or maybe this was before we were out, just in terms of our process, we're focusing first on the cash items, because that will, that's the most important thing in the Senate process.
Yeah.
But in section 2, the cash items.
Oh, you're
That
okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
The House concurred with the governor recommend. So let me ask the committee if they have questions about any of these items. Do you have
Section 2.
Section 2, Agency of Administration, Building and General Services. Just generally, you can talk.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, my notes.
No, no worries.
I mean, major maintenance is.
If I, excuse me, if I could just highlight a couple in
Yeah,
here.
that'd be great.
So I'm in section 2, and so just back to the the House may have reassigned cash, but in general, the House agreed with the governor's proposal on the total amount of cash that was to be utilized for the capital bill.
Okay,
Okay, so I think that's, so the dollars didn't, the total amount didn't change. They may have realigned it to some other projects.
okay,
So I think with major maintenance, I'm just going to, they, in, their evaluation of the capital bill and the reassignment of, dollars and what they did, they increased the major maintenance fund. We were very pleased about this, and I'm just, gonna speak to the committee, obviously, very directly. Prior to COVID, I think major maintenance was receiving a little over $12 million a year for all of the state facilities throughout the state. It's not just Montpelier. You all know your communities where we have them. And then because buildings weren't being occupied, they were spending less, and the BGS team was focused on, then we moved into flood recovery, right? And their focus was on flood recovery. We've realigned. Major maintenance is one of the most critical funding sources that we get as a department. It gives us the ability to take care of necessary items. Lauren Washburn is one of the chiefs in design and construction. And I believe early on this year, Madam Chair, she came in and testified on the major maintenance. And sort of gave you where our spend was, and we were sitting on a lot of old money. I think you may recall this from last year, maybe a couple of years ago, and you were reallocating it because we weren't spending it. And so I reset with my team and we said, let's we always prioritize, but let's move these projects forward, because to lose major maintenance in our business is not a good practice. So when we presented to the House, I believe in March, don't hold me to that, it could have been February, we presented our spend, and I believe at that time we were at about 87% to 90% of all of the money we have. And we are breathing to get to the end of the fiscal year and hope that we don't have any urgent needs. And with that, and seeing what our process was in our spend, the House raised the amount. So that's the history about that. We're very thankful for that, and I hope that you will support it.
no,
And so,
we usually do.
yeah. On the, go ahead.
Yes,
So with major maintenance, excuse me, that is all state buildings. That includes anything, the preventive maintenance, as well as anything breaks down HVAC
Yeah.
and the whole.
Yes, but I'm gonna be, we're doing building assessments, and we have an idea of, I'm gonna tell you, one of our strengths right now, because of money, is not investing in some of those preventive. I wish we were further ahead in, if we know the system, and I'm just making, the system is going to, I mean, we change filters and that type of thing. But we also know we have life expectancies on certain systems within buildings. And there are different opportunities to manage those preventive elements. We do the best that we can, but most of our money has been going to the immediate needs and addressing those. And so,
And the reason I ask that, because it seems like if you did preventive maintenance and had to do for the amount of throughout the state,
and again, when I say, and there's a lot of new members in this committee, there's a lot of new members in the House. The conversation that you're bringing up, and I'm not sitting here lobbying for more money in any way or asking for more, but we were at a place, and we really had some good history on that and in a process, and, events happened and that changed. And we worked really closely with the legislative body, and this is when I was at BGS in like 2014. I think we were probably that was a long time ago, at the height of it. But we worked really closely with you to start building that back up, because it is our inventory, and the buildings are being utilized, and so it's important. But right now, if you gave it to me today, I'm gonna be honest, we don't have a plan to spend it, and I'm gonna, Emily wants to say something, and I think that's really important too. We have to be able to wrap our hands around what are we gonna do?
I think that was the point I was gonna make as well, is that you have to be able to get the work done if you have the money as well. So it's the idea is not to let the money time out, but to spend it, as you had said previously, to be able to spend it as you need to do it.
So that's, as the commissioner said, like right now, I think we're focused on those things that come in. And so right now, the way primarily that major maintenance works, setting aside an emergent issue that we have to respond to immediately. Our operations and maintenance division, who are the folks in the buildings day to day, the district facility managers, so they're out, statewide, they will have a list on their priority list of what in their district they think needs maintenance attention. That will funnel through the design and construction division, who then assign priority based on the need as well as funding capacity. And that's basically how it's working now. And of course, costs are getting more expensive, right, to do all that maintenance.
Yeah.
So the vision that the commissioner alluded to is, moving forward in the future, getting more ahead of that preventative maintenance through those needs assessments. And we're building towards that, back towards that capacity.
Yeah, and thank you, Emily. I really appreciate that. And I think for the committee, so I think to her point, from the district offices, they have their list of needs, right? And so, and that's because they're on ground, they're in the buildings, they know what needs to be done. And preventive maintenance does happen. Some of it goes through the fee for space.
Mhm.
And some of it, so we're doing, I would say we're doing the minimal. I know we're doing the minimal. We want to start
Sure.
getting some more of that. And that was a great discussion around an increase of, I think it was 200,000 or 1.2, right? 500, sorry, I'm reading the wrong one.
Right,
So
but no,
thank
but
you.
that's a considerable amount, and it's a really important one. And
And
I'm
it will
gonna,
be used.
I'm going to, not to go the way that I said I was gonna go, but, line 4,
Yes.
the 3-acre parcel, that's always a
Yes.
big deal. And it
So.
looks like you need less, or,
No, when you digest the letter that we sent to you, we actually, we don't support the reduction from last year and this year. And I think and we have testified and we have spent a lot of time with the committee. I just want everyone to know, so it doesn't matter. We have a requirement to do these investments, which you all know about the stormwater compliance. And then we've seen a considerable reduction, I think over 50% from our original recommendations over time to address these, to meet the deadlines and the compliance. But one of the other things that we pointed out, and Joe could get into some detail, so I encourage a note from, we'll make sure Joanna talks about this, is that the boiler project that you've been funding, is, in order for us, once we replace the boiler, in order for us to operate that, so this is, at the North-South Correctional, NSCF. Why am I drawing a blank?
Northern State.
Northern State, not North-South,
Yeah.
that we will not be able to use the new boiler until
Not
the
the permit.
water is done.
Well, that's a good incentive to get it done.
And they also, you're gonna see, I think there was a small reduction also in that project cost.
Okay, so thank you. Good, I'm
You're
glad I
welcome.
brought that up, and what
Okay.
I was going to ask you for, and I still would like this, is just a 1-pager on what you've spent on 3-acre, and more importantly, how far along you are with the
Yeah.
3-acre process.
Yes.
And when you think you're gonna be completed.
Okay. Well, I know we won't be completed until we get the funding. But if we, so the really, the.
Yeah, I just wanna know how
if you
far along.
got- Right,
Like,
so how
are
far
you
along?
70%, 50%?
Yeah, we will have that in the presentation for the committee.
Perfect,
Okay.
thank you.
Perfect. Yes.
Yes, another question.
Just a general question. I mean, if we focus first on cash, which is what you indicated we would do.
Mhm.
I see no changes from the House from what the governor's recommendation was in section 2. So my basic question, there are changes in, other sections, but not in the cash. And so to achieve what you see in front of you for the next fiscal or this coming year, are the cash values that are here adequate to meet what you have in your programs?
So Senator, that, my funding source is cash or bonded. My focus is project and what I need to get it done. So when we present to the administration and when we present to you, it is about the project and the total cost.
I don't care which.
Well,
pot of money comes out.
and so I think that's really, really important. The conversations that happen with the administration and the House and the Senate about should we use cash for this or should we use it for that? That's where it goes. So for me, it's about what projects have been reduced and have projects been added and have projects changed.
Right.
Okay, so from using that, then
And-
you would look at the total line
Yep.
and you would in section 2 and go, does that and some of the changes that the House made achieve the objectives that BGS is trying to achieve in the next year? Or you, and I haven't had time to digest this
Yeah.
letter,
Yeah.
so I don't know which of the items in section 2, if any, this addresses, but just so we understand whether there's things here that you disagree with or whether you're in agreement with what the House's version has provided.
So I think that's where I was,
Yeah.
where I was trying to go.
Yeah.
But I do want, and as you know, members of the committee, if you want to get into the cash discussion and the decisions, I think Nick Kramer is who you need to reach out to have come in and talk specifically about the cash because, that's
It
where
all
that's
spends
it.
for you.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't,
Okay,
Okay.
so to better use your time,
yep. I.
let us know what you would like us
Yeah.
to know at this point in the
Okay.
process.
So we talked about in section 2, line 1, we talked about major maintenance. We just had a conversation on the stormwater, which
You'll
is
take as
line
much as we give you there.
4. And then and then I'm just, you will see, that's on line 11. This is one of those items I just want to note for you. There was a significant amount proposed by the administration to be reallocated. So this is for the coolant system at 120 State Street, and it's been a project that's been on your books for a while. And I think Joe's presented, we've got to replace the whole HVAC, we got to take out the radiators, etc. We suggested to delay this. So the money that is there is what we need to keep certain planning pieces going. We presented a delay because we are back to the capital complex discussion around the FEMA settlement. And so we have to utilize buildings that were ready to bring them back to life, to put people in there. We have to address the MEP, we have to address the coolant systems, the heating systems. And so we said, instead of moving forward with one building as a standalone right now, let's pause for a year and let's bring that design and that concept into what does the future systems look like within the Capitol complex. So the need for 120 State Streets, heating and cooling system and mechanical is not going away, and it's about a 12 million, I think don't quote me, I think it's about 12 million or more dollars. We'll be back to talk about it, but to have that money sit there right now and we're not moving it forward because we're looking at the complex in its entirety, we supported that. the money that's remaining, please keep, so we can make that a part of the planning process, so we can, look at the whole design.
Okay.
Was that too much
No,
information?
that was good.
Okay,
Wait,
Just so,
questions? Yeah.
so keep the $1 million is what they're saying.
yes, and you're gonna see when you get into the reallocations, I think there's, I wanna say 8 million, but am I right? I don't know. Sometimes I remember things, sometimes I don't. 120 State Street, no, that's the million. We'll confirm that. I think
Yeah.
there's cash that we reallocated, but let me continue because I don't have it in front of me, Madam Chair.
Okay,
And then the line item number 12 is the State House entry upgrades, the design documents, including the comprehensive parking plan and the driveway. So I just want to note, a couple of things. So BGS is working with the Sergeant at Arms and all, we're managing this project. We hired the architect because we have the money that's working on this. The Sergeant at Arms did put a request in, due to the limited dollars and what we needed to do. We didn't propose, nothing was proposed in the capital bill. We went into the House and did a joint presentation on the timeline, what is being contemplated, and the House chose to add this money. So I think if the committee really wants to, have the same presentation that we did jointly, I think, the Sergeant at Arms and BGS would be happy to come in. The one thing that I will just say, if you want to make a note here, when you look at the language in the bill, it says, design documents, including comprehensive parking plan. The comprehensive parking plan is to really look at what's handicap spaces and everything that you're losing, that you're going to, the addition would take over. So we are suggesting that, we'd like some clarity, because back to what, and I've shared this with the Sergeant at Arms and the committee, we are trying to finalize with FEMA. Hopefully that's coming soon. And then we have to aggressively move in for our planning around the complex. And I think what's really important, and I say this, is you don't see where the issues are, right? So we have to start looking at some of our parking spaces for flood mitigation. Where are these programs going? What's construction gonna look like? Where do we start? Do we start over here? Do we start over there? Because every building in this complex, with the exception of 120, this building, is impacted by the response to the rebuild. And so I want to make sure we don't end up with language that has us looking at one thing in isolation and something else over here. So I'm a little
Okay.
sensitive to that.
okay.
Just a quick question, just out of curiosity. So does this take us through DDs or all the way through construction?
Well, actually, the proposal, the 1.3, when you see the presentation, it is construction documents. I think and this would be a good conversation to have with the chair, or members of the House. I think that while they've identified, design documents here. The budget that was put together is 2 construction documents with a construction schedule and anticipation of, you're going to support this as a legislative body and fund this, you've got a big chunk of money that you're gonna have to fund this year.
Okay,
So we were seeing
okay,
that. So I think that is, that's it for section 2.
okay,
And, so I am going to just highlight for you in section 3, Director Age is so on Friday, you have DOC and BGS coming in
Mhm.
to talk about this section. Joe's gonna take the lead, like on line 21 and on, I think there are several items in here, but the roof replacements, the sprinkler, the HVAC, you will see there were some changes, which I'm going to just quickly highlight. So when you read it, the door controls was reduced by $2 million by the House. this project's underway and we have a contract. The reduction in this money, Joe will present to you that we're gonna have to delay or stop for until you give us new money.
Oh,
So that's why I think me just highlighting and then Joe will be prepared
okay.
to talk about this, but
I apologize, what line item?
the state, door
48.
line,
Thank you.
thank you.
So you've done a fair amount of it though, you said.
Yes,
So
yes.
looking at.
They say why they wanted to pull the money, or is that a Joe question?
Well, I don't think that we present Senator why we need the money and the impact if you make a change.
Right.
We are not in there for every decision.
I-
Emily, you were?
Well, I think primarily the thinking was around flow of funds and whether we would
Spend it.
really
Yeah.
need the money in that fiscal year. And our answer is yes.
So
Yeah.
Your answer,
Started
yes.
project
Move
already.
forward, the
Well, we
more-
have contract.
As I read your letter, you're saying not only do you need 2 million, you need 3 million. Is
The,
that correct, the way that
on
this reads?
no, that's for the next project.
Well, I'm sorry, it's for the wrong line. Yeah, 2
Yeah,
million.
that's
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
the
that's for
next project,
one.
yes,
Right.
yeah. So that was that question.
Okay.
So Joe's coming in, and he's gonna talk about the Northern State Correctional Facility, the boiler replacement. There was a change in that, and then the storm water. And then
I apologize,
that's okay.
the contract, do you know when, I'm going back to the door, forgive me.
Joe will give you that detail.
Okay.
You don't want me to, because then I'll have to come in and correct the record.
No. Okay, I guess that my thing more than anything, if it's going to start, I don't want to short that.
So what-
So, yeah.
So what I understand, Senator, this is we have to do door controls on all of the facilities. So it's been a phased approach and our funding has really been presented to you. So we have a construction management contract and that the funding has been requested that every year what the cash is and how we're gonna move forward. So this reduction will actually delay that work progress that we've been moving towards.
Gotcha.
Right, and you've been working on it for years.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and we've only been asking you what we need to get from one year to the next year. Basically on a cash flow, that would be my terminology. So anticipating the way we did this project through the construction management process and contract. There's sort of been, okay, we'll keep funding it, so it does create a delay.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Assume your contract reflects the amount that you assumed you were gonna get.
I hope.
Well, we can always do change orders, so. I think, so DOC is a big day for you on Friday,
Yeah,
and there's quite a few items in here that you're gonna talk about,
with the
right?
women's facility and the RFP that you put out.
Yes, so, Emily and I were just talking and Joe is not here today, and I believe I confirmed on Friday or Monday, I honestly don't know. So we did an RFP or request for options. We went through brokers. We didn't do it on our own because brokers are the ones who really have the large land holdings and know their clients with our specific.
You got a copy of that.
We believe, Emily and I confirmed just a little while ago, I think Friday at 3 is the deadline.
This coming Friday,
Yes,
are you at all optimistic?
no,
I'm sorry.
Have you gotten any questions or inquiries?
not that I let the team manage, I do know there is an envelope, there's one envelope.
Hmm.
I think, let's see what Friday brings. And I think this is something, I haven't been around that long. The conversation and I understand the need. And so I'm not gonna get into that. This is just, this is not an easy building to site, to get support. It's large. I think you know
Oh, we
all
know.
of the
Yeah, we
feelings
understand.
around that.
Yeah,
And, so, I started brainstorming with my team and just saying, we might have to look at something in between to keep it moving, right? Because I think, Senator, you all have been working on this for over 6 years.
yes, I mean, not personally, because I haven't been here that long, but yes, actually, I think like 12 years.
So, and even if we had everything, if the goose was just gracious on Friday and everything was there, you are still looking at a 3 to 4, potentially 4 years, maybe even before you build, and don't hesitate, don't, because I think that's typical. First of all, you have to finalize, you gotta make sure the site works, you've gotta test the site, you've gotta analyze the site, you've gotta get all of your permits,
Right.
and we have to have the money. to
We
build
do
that.
have the money.
No, we have 14
We
million.
have the money to start.
Design.
We have the money to start.
Well, we've been doing design.
Yeah.
And we have authority to purchase the land, but right now it's $140 million estimated project.
Time is your bid opening.
She's gonna correct me.
The response deadline is actually today at 4:30.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
So we will know,
Oh, pretty.
we will know soon.
Well, we'll have we'll be able to tell you tomorrow how many we received, because I'm sure we will not be able to do the full analysis, unless there's one. But we still have to check all of the boxes on those bids. Okay, so yes, more to come on that discussion. The section 4, we can pass. Section 5, I will just say, BGS does manage 3 of these grants, and it continues to be a successful story, and there were no changes there. The veterans home, I want to point out, and I sort of came in on the end of this, there was the veterans home right towards the end testified and asked for some changes on some of their projects. What I have not been able to discuss with Joe Aja yet, and in the language, if you want to make a note, and I'm just gonna go to it if you give me a second, the so they added language in section 5. And it says the chief executive officer of the Vermont Veterans Home is authorized to transfer any unexpended project balances. So that was existing. And then they say, and the amount appropriated in subsection C of this section. My clarification to Joe, which we will get back to you. Some of the money for the Veterans Home is appropriated to BGS. And some of the money is appropriated to the Veterans Home. And my understanding is the logic around that has been, if it's a federal project, they're managing the federal dollars. Does that ring a bell with all of you? And then there are BGS specific projects that we do. The only thing that I'm gonna ask Joe is, with this change in the language and the realignment of dollars, did that language impact anything that we currently have going on? So we may ask for clarification there, or we may ask for addition, with maybe an exception to a project that we have a contract with, because we don't want them moving money that we've contracted.
Okay.
Okay. Nothing state colleges, nothing in section 9 for natural resources, nothing in section 10 for clean water. Nothing in section 11 for military, nothing in the section 12 for the ag and food markets. And then Joe will be getting into our recommendations on section 13. So the and they stayed with the USAR. I think the one item, no, they. I think, what I believe the note here, is there was some money that was previously allocated to Rutland. I think it's Rutland. Is reallocated, and it's not because it's not a priority, Madam Chair and committee members. It's because we're not gonna advance it in the next year, the Rutland project. It's not because it's not a priority, we are not ready for that. And some of the reallocation
Mhm.
and reassignment of dollars is because of the work that the House does on the revote committee. But we also have to, there's statute on when we have to reallocate cash that hasn't been spent. And then there's statute on when we have to reallocate, bonded money. And I think part of Rutland fit into that as well. So there's no cancellation or anything, but there's just a shifting in cash flow.
Okay,
And then the judiciary, the Newport Courthouse, that is, we're working with the community of Newport. I just want you to know, we are seeing some very, good opportunities. We're not sure. There's a possibility of, the Newport Port Building Project has been one of the #1 priorities for the judicial system. We have authority, directed BGS to look for land outside. There is an opportunity with the city's planning that's going with the downtown to potentially utilize, space in the downtown. And, it would be nice to, get this building built. And my quick little story, when I was leaving BGS, my last tour of a facility. So this was in late 2015, 2016, was with the Chief Justice to Newport. And to go through that building with the Chief Justice saying, look at this, this is, and it was around security, and it was around access, and it was around privacy. And it was around separation of the people who are the judicial system, keeping, them all protected. And, to come back and to know we're still here, I would love to put a shovel on the ground on that one.
And in fairness with that, of course, I'm from that area and I've been involved with a lot of the discussions. And even on the previous discussions, when we hadn't made the decisions yet to do anything, I have been the one to strip the money out of Newport because I knew that we weren't ready. But we are getting close to being ready, and I hate to see the money's being stripped out. I will say this. Not just because it's in my district, but because it is in my district and I know we are ready to move forward at some capacity. We still have some things to work out and I would like to move forward at that. And we have been fair with the state's monies and the people's monies to say, no, we take this money. We don't need this money now. I would hate to see it held up when we were ready, because we have done our due diligence and duty to say no when we weren't.
Am I misinformed? Is the building a historic building?
It is.
It is, okay.
It's a historic building and it's beautiful. And it's located up on a hill and it's next to the, thank you. The county courthouse, which is another, and there was a point in time where, and they still do, where the state was utilizing some of the county court space. They're not even connected and, but I think all of you as senators and of individuals that represent the state and your constituents, we are in a very good place with the community, with a vision and a commitment and a dedication to really do more than just the core building. And they're looking at this further. And I think it's one of the areas we know that has suffered.
Just for my own education, as far as this, since it is a historic building, and it's obviously, and correct me if I'm wrong, you need something more modern for usage. How do you manage it? What are you going to do with the old building?
I think just with the, and I apologize.
No, don't
I would say
apologize.
that within the talk of where it's been, it has been talked about, there is a great way to turn that into housing and to affordable housing, using a lot of the state's money again. As we know, it goes within the, is what, people in this building have believed is that you want to get more housing in downtown centers. And so that's why it fits very well into the, plan of what a lot of people in this building would like to see. More housing in the downtown center with less vehicle traffic and all of that. And there's a path forward with that.
Yeah, and I'll be the bureaucrat. And so for us, there's, we have to go through, we go through a process. Do we need the building? Do we need the space? And we actually have to get approval
Right.
from you all to either transfer or to sell. It has, because it's historic, if it has any covenants, on it, then, that has to be transferred. We work very closely with SHPO on any potential sales to see if they want any covenants on the interior. So it is a partnership. We don't just abandon it, and it would be their space, let's just say everything aligned once again and the stars aligned and we started construction, next year, which I think, the stars would really have to align. But if that happened, that's still their space probably for 3 years. Right, and their transition space, and that's where we have time to figure out, what is the best course. But we have statutes and requirements even on those historic buildings that we own and ensuring preservation and.
Yeah, and I apologize for taking the time. I just didn't know
Well,
what the
that's,
stats.
and I can add some more context to that as well.
Oh, okay, just one at a time, okay.
There's a plan to put in about 300 units of housing in downtown Newport, and this is just one of the plans.
Good.
And it's ongoing conversations that are factoring, working closely with the state and economic development and all of that. We have the places just designated. There's actually a map to where we can put the housing in. And again, it kind of aligns with what the ideas of the majority of the people in this building's plans are.
Good, okay, Senator Benson.
So just hearing all of that and looking at what changes, then it's taking about half of the money away from what was originally allocated towards the project. So,
Well, we still have, you've given us other allocations.
okay, so I just want to be
So
sure.
we have enough
Okay.
money to purchase land, if that's the option, and to continue with design. And you've already given us authority to purchase, and when I say us, the Department of Buildings and General Services, the state. So
I
that
just want to make sure that the cut doesn't affect moving forward.
And we didn't recommend the cut,
Thank
we're
you.
strategizing, because as the community may remember, there are kind of two courthouse replacement projects right now that are high priorities, the judiciary, Barry and Newport. And we, as a partnership, decided Newport was, further in flight. We wanted to really, strategize to prioritize that one, to get motion on that one. So that's where the governor's recommend had that additional appropriation recommend for moving forward in courthouse in Newport. So that was really the strategy there. We already have, money available to us. This was kind of to keep it going forward. That said, with this reduction, we still have sufficient funding to move forward in a meaningful way.
Good, thank you.
And part of the challenge just of our process is that we don't see fund balances unless we ask for them. That's hard. We just see this year's allocation.
Right. So that's.
So we.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm
So,
telling you.
Chair, I want you to know that BGS presents its documents with, your previous, our slideshow does have those numbers for you.
Okay,
Because it
great.
is important information to have.
Yes, yes. And I guess we haven't, we saw slides months ago.
Yeah, so, and I do know Joe's updating those, so we will check in with him tomorrow.
Okay.
And then that is, that's really it. I think on, as we said, the bonded reallocation, section 17, we go through a very internal process. Joe Aja, Emily and I, and we look at our cash balances, our contracts, we look at if projects are moving forward, if they're delayed. And then we look at the statute and the authority of the years, and we have a discussion on that. So anything that's been offered that are BGS projects that are in here, it has been vetted.
Oh, yeah.
And I just, I want to say that, and the same for the cash. And one of the things I just want to say to this committee that I think is really important, last year I was shocked at how much money was during this process, had exceeded the 4 years or exceeded the 2 years, depending on what the funding was, how much was sitting there and going through it. And one of the things, and I think I shared this with the committee, and I'll be brief, one of the things that I realized is the way we were tracking the money, we weren't putting on an operational side, the cash funds in our spreadsheet with the bonded funds for projects, because sometimes you give us cash, sometimes you give us bonded. So you'd have to go to both sections to figure out what was there. And what happened last year is I think there was a considerable amount of money that we had to reallocate because we were spending the new money, not the old. And the number one rule over phase funding of the capital bills, you spend your old first. So we really did some great work as a team, and I even brought Scott Moore in, and we sat down and we worked as a team, and we changed our internal spreadsheet, and we make sure that our working document aligns with vision, which is the accounting system for the state, and that all of the contracts and everything are in. So now we have a check and balance, and we're able to make and project managers see the whole, the many years of appropriation. And, excuse me, when they pay a bill, they go to the oldest money first. So this year there wasn't as much to give back because we did change that behavior.
Okay, well, good. You should have. I mean, that's great.
Thank you.
That's the reason. So we have 10 minutes left
You go.
of your time.
Yeah.
If you think it would be helpful, you talked about the FEMA money and the process to finish that up.
Yeah.
Can you give us some more information, unless somebody else in the committee has a different question?
One other question that relates to this letter, which talks about.
Okay, but the rest of us haven't seen that letter yet. I know.
Daryl was sitting here, but I'm good, and so I just scanned it, so my question is, as I understand the process here, the money's the money and it's how it gets allocated.
For BGS, the cash and the bonded.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, for us totally there's no new money that basically comes in here. We have so much money and it gets allocated to different processes or different projects. And you indicated in here some projects that you need either more money for than what came out of the House version. Did you, and again, I apologize because I haven't had time to really digest the whole letter. But did you also identify places where that money can come from that could be reduced and still achieve your objectives, so that we know if you need another $1 billion to do, by example, the doors, that $1 million has to come from something else. And so I didn't know whether in your process you had kind of looked and say, well, we could probably do without the $1 million here, or did you leave that for us to figure
Well,
out?
so the governor proposed a budget, and the governor supported these projects at the cost estimates that were presented to the House. And we identified the source of funds at that time. So it was either, right, so we have bonded money and you have cash money and you have a total. And the projects that the governor proposed to you totaled out for that amount of money. The House has chosen to reduce or reassign or add projects. So we will stand that our budget at this time was, the budget presented is the budget and this was.
I understand that where you're.
So have I gone back in and said, well, if you took $1 million from here, I want you to cancel this project over here? Absolutely not,
Yeah.
because the dollar amount is what you have to work with. If
Yeah.
you're gonna add projects as a Senate, you're gonna have to find the money within this pot.
Yeah.
And you'll have a great time with your committee members working through that.
So I just want to understand where BTS stood on all that.
Yes, we like our proposed budget.
Got it.
Okay, that's fair. Well,
So
and
that-
and FEMA, if you think it would be useful to us.
So I think, so we have been, so Doug Farnham, the chief recovery officer, is doing a phenomenal job. And, we have literally, you know, in, I want to say the, you know, last 3 weeks probably been really engaged with FEMA, in meetings. So, you know, just to step back, I think you all know this from your communities, you know, you have to do a detailed inventory of your loss, et cetera. You have to put basically an application together and you have to do cost estimates and these are documents, you know, that, you know, we have to price out what the nails cost, what the staples cost, what the piping, it's quite intensive. We've completed all of those tasks and we have submitted our cost estimates and this is not about a design, right? So we look at it as, you know, we want to, you know, we look at one of the application is a 428 and a 428, you have to repair your buildings, you have to do your flood mitigation, but it gives you some flexibility. And then if you don't accept that or can't get approved for that, you sort of look at building by building. So we've been delivering, we've been very engaged. The BGS team does the design, does the cost estimating. We, you know, have the architect that's on it. Doug is leading that FEMA piece. There was another extension recently, and I don't want to misquote because I'm looking at Emily because she remembers this. From FEMA, because we're trying to work with them to get as much money as we can. So really in a comfortable way, they've extended it so we can give some specific deliverables. I think that's the best way to summarize that, which
Yeah.
is May, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would expect within the next 6 weeks, we'll have a much better picture of what the offer is.
And then the process is the offer and, you know, and it has to be accepted by, you know, the governor and then, you know, at some point you sign off on it. It's, you know, with that, you know, we're going to be, you know, moving forward. So I really think Doug could give you a great overview if you want more detail.
I don't think I need more detail. It's just, that's the reason why we're not going forward with a couple of projects, right? You want to wait until that's finished.
Well, so the 120 is we need to go forward with 120, but one of the things I'm comfortable. One of the things that we're exploring is it doesn't make sense. So I don't want you to say, oh, you should do it because we don't know, but could we do more of a centralized coolant system to serve here? It's an exploration to serve the complex or each side of the street because all of these buildings have lost those systems, right? And we have to bring that infrastructure back. We've got to bring electrical back. We've got all of those elements. You know, where we drive floodproofing? How can we do it? There's just so much. So all we said on that one is, can we pause? Because I would hate to see us spend $8 or $12 million on 120 State Street when then we potentially put in something else that could serve that side of the street.
Good, yeah.
So that's the
Makes sense.
only one that we suggested a pause for a year.
Okay. All right, that's helpful.
Other
Anything
questions?
else? We'll see you again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Have a
and
great day.
We'll get
Thank
the language before we see you again. So that you can talk to
I,
us.
everything I said, you will remember.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and we are gonna take
Feel better.
a,
Well, no, I just got stuff out in here since you closed the door. So.
we're gonna adjourn and come back at 3 p.m.